An important question that comes up for me every now and again is the question of is my spiritual practice just a form of escapism? Am I just using spirituality as a way of not dealing with the issues and responsibility of day-to-day living? I think that's a very valid question to periodically ask oneself. And the answer is spirituality is not in itself escapism, but it can be used as one. It majorly just depends. It depends on where one is coming from in the midst of their own practice. There have been times in my life when spirituality has most certainly been a form of escapism. I feel like some aspect of my life is not going perfectly smoothly, and so rather than try to smooth out said part of my life, I just say, well, it doesn't even matter anyway because I got spirituality to focus on. I'm going to be successful in the spiritual realm, and then it doesn't matter if XYZ other thing about my life is lacking. One particular instance of that was in 2021. I just had some really turbulent stuff happen in my social life, and so I was like, well, then forget friendships and personal relationships. Those don't even matter. I'm just going to start meditating a whole lot every single day. And of course, that didn't carry very far, but that is just an example of where spirituality can be a form of escapism. It's easy to glorify spirituality for, you look at those monks who give up all their relationships and go and live in a cave for decades and decades. And maybe that was the right move for them to do, but I think a lot of people in the West get attracted to that because of the self-centered nature of it. It's a disguised self-centered nature. Disguised, in the name of some form of nobility. Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with genuinely needing to go isolate oneself for decades if that really is your life calling, but I think very few people are going to actually have that life calling. And going to sequester yourself somewhere is a way of rejecting what your sort of day-to-day reality is for most people. But yeah, it doesn't inherently have to be a form of escapism. I love what, I think his name is Om Swami is how you pronounce it. It's Omswami. He actually is a gentleman who did said, hide in a cave for some period of time. And he wrote a book called, it's like A Million Thoughts. And one of the important notes that he makes that really stuck with me was that we meditate to live. We do not live to meditate. That was an excellent, groundbreaking insight for me to read. We meditate for the purposes of enriching our living outside of our meditation space. It's generally not the sole mission of us being put on this planet to just go and sit quietly 24/7. My spiritual teacher has even he was talking to me about that, he kind of chuckled. He was like, honestly, that's kind of a dumb way to use this human existence, unless it genuinely is the true life path and karma that you've been given. But it is for so few people. Yeah, no, we meditate in order to enrich our living. We do any form of spiritual practice, hopefully, to enrich our living. And I very, very, very much have to watch myself, especially in the last year and a half when spirituality has become like my number one priority. I have to watch myself of being like, okay, I can preach all this stuff on a YouTube video, or sit there in meditation and convince myself that I'm one with everything at total peace and burning with the fiery love of all that is. But then if I'm driving home and I'm screaming at somebody from inside my car because they're going 5 miles under the speed limit, have I actually made any sort of life advancement? Or do I just use spirituality as a way to convince myself that I've made some progress that I maybe haven't actually? But I think the antithesis, or the counter argument to somebody saying that spirituality is just escapism, is spirituality really is intertwined with all there is. That's when you know that you're truly embodying your teaching, is when you start to view every single aspect of life as a spiritual practice. Every single discipline that you learn as part of spirituality can be applied in daily living. Absolutely all of them. When I'm doing chores around the house, I can apply mindfulness to my mind and my body and my general being. There's no exclusion between mindfulness and doing chores. When I'm sitting at my desk doing my work and I'm talking to people, I have the capability of being aware of the divine absolute shining through every single being that I encounter. That is a capability that I have. If I crash my car, I can step out of the car and still feel a divine love for this existence that I have. My spirituality is not confined to my sitting on a meditation cushion. And it's not confined to being here in this video contemplating out loud. True spirituality is fully life integrated. And I will say another thing is that, I've said that I've used spirituality as an escapist goal in the past. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'll say over and over and over again, the low-tier spirituality that you take part in is very necessary to get to higher-tier forms of spirituality. You kind of have no choice but to go through that because you've got a lot of ego to work through. And I do think it's valuable to have something that you're working on. Even if it's a little bit misguided, I think you keep doing it and you mature and it finds its way back to being a not misguided pursuit. It helps to have something that you're working on. And anything can be a form of escapism. Any passion, no matter how perfectly valid or high value, you can use it as a form of escapism. A workaholic doctor who's saving lives, who works all hours of the day so that he doesn't have to go home and deal with a turbulent family life, for example. Using a noble cause as a form of escapism. So I don't even want to demonize anybody that is using spirituality as a form of escapism. Because we always got to have something that we're working on. And the last thing that I want to say here is that I get worried about sharing my spiritual experience. There is a cop driving by. I get worried about sharing my spiritual experience and making it seem like I'm fully living out every single principle of spirituality that I present here, like I'm a perfect glowing example. And I wonder, should I even be talking about spirituality sometimes for that exact reason? Because I still got a whole lot of work to do in fully integrating spirituality into my life. And I think it's good for me to share it here because it also holds myself accountable. Hey, you shared it on the YouTube video. Are you actually going out and embodying it? A lot of the time, yes. Good portion of the time, no. But it's an excellent motivator. And that's why I do think that there is value in me sharing this stuff outside of any egoic image that I form of being a spiritual person for the world to see. Yeah. This itself is a form of spirituality, and very grateful for it like all other forms.